Welcome into another episode of Extra Points. I'm Andrew Clay, Riley Holsinger, and Ryan Riskey standing by here in studio. If you're a regular viewer, we appreciate your attention here as we get things rolling on this brand new show. Brand new is maybe a strong word, but for many of you, you aren't familiar with Extra Points, and you're watching us on your Black and Gold Nation station, and we appreciate you tuning in for this show. We do air this show, a half-hour local sports talk show, weekdays on WTAJ+, but this Black and Gold edition is reaching further and further now here as we get into the Steelers' regular season. And so today we're going to go wall-to-wall Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're going to do so by talking to a member of the New York Jets media. And my Stream Deck just reset, so stand by 1 second. I love when this happens. Standing by. There we go. Let's go ahead and bring in Marc Malusis of WPIX in New York, where he covers the Jets. Mark, it is week one. Football season's upon us. How much energy is there around the Jets facility, and how much optimism is there heading into this first game of the season?
Yeah, I think they're two different things. First off, guys, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to football getting going. First NFL Sunday, and you got the game going tonight between Philadelphia and Dallas. But I think that it's two things. I think there's excitement for Glenn. When you say optimism, like I don't know if I think Jet fans are realistic that it's going to be a little bit of a build here for Aaron Glenn, and that he wants to get his players and the culture and, what they did during the course of training camp and practicing a lot with pads and telling his players, nothing's personal. I'm here to coach you and coach you hard and get the best out of you. And a former player here, learned under the guys of Bill Parcells and Al Groh, former coaches and head coaches with the New York Jets. So I think there's optimism that they found the right coach. I don't know if there's optimism that all of a sudden the Jets are going to be a playoff team, something they've not done since 2010, given some of the concerns that you have on this team, whether it be, talent at certain positions, the most important one being quarterback, and obviously some of the injuries that transpired, especially late this week with their offensive line.
What are some of maybe the big noticeable differences that you see from Robert Saleh to Aaron Glenn?
Well, I think Saleh was a player's coach. I think it's kind of, you see this in all sports. You go from a coach that is a strict disciplinarian to a player-friendly coach to try and get the best out of the team, to try and change the mindset, the vision, grab the guy's attention, and the messaging. I think the Jets went from a very player-friendly coach who is not hypercritical now to a more of a disciplinarian, old-school coach in Aaron Glenn, looking to hold these guys accountable. Not everything's great. Not everything's honky-dory. If he criticized the offense during the course of the preseason, you're going to have to earn it to get playing time here with the Jets. We're going to play the right way. We're going to play smart. We're not going to go out there and beat ourselves. So those are the things that you look at that have been impressive with Glenn. The other thing you hear is, or that you've seen is, the Jets for the last 2 years were a leaky ship. And what I mean by that is you saw, whether it be Zach Rosenblatt, Diana Rossini, who do a great job of covering the Jets and the NFL respectively for The Athletic, coming out with pieces about what was going on behind the scenes. You've heard none of that since Glenn has taken over. So it's been more of a case of his messaging has come through. Make no bones about it. He's the general down in Florham Park. The owner, Woody Johnson, has gotten out of the way. He handpicked the general manager, and Darren Muju came over from the Denver Broncos. And the first big decision he had to make was to tell Aaron Rodgers, thanks, but no thanks. You might be a more talented quarterback, he is, than Justin Fields. Obviously, decidedly more accomplished in the National Football League. But Aaron Glenn did that not necessarily for 2025 and the win-loss record. It was more a case of him setting a tone for what this Jet franchise is going to be all about moving forward. And not saying everything with Rodgers is bad. I'm not. I was one that I thought the Jets were going to the playoffs last year. I thought they were going to contend in the AFC, potentially win a Super Bowl. Never worked out. So I think Glenn, though, needed to make sure all the focus was on him, the task at hand, and what he wanted to try and accomplish here with the Jets, and needed no unnecessary distractions, which comes along the way with Rodgers.
Now, Mark, you just touched on that with Aaron Rodgers, and there was a lot of hype around the Jets the past couple of years in terms of all the primetime games they were getting. A lot of people thought the Jets were on the rise with Rodgers. Where did it go wrong?
Oh, you could throw something everywhere. I mean, it went wrong like everywhere. So, I mean, it went wrong. The offensive line couldn't block. Rodgers got hurt early in the season. The head coach got fired. And the owner getting involved, Woody Johnson. His sons and family members in the locker room after games handing out game balls. Ulbrich taking over as interim head coach. He was an unmitigated disaster. The lack of vision and not hiring a defensive coordinator to help him out, still having him run the defense as he's trying to coach the entire team, never works. It went wrong in a lot of different ways. I mean, it was more style than it ever was substance. I think you look at the coaches. I think you look at Robert Saleh was a terrible head coach, but I think he did a lot to make sure that he was appeasing Aaron Rodgers, it being a quarterback-driven league. So, I mean, you can run down the line and run down the list of how it all went wrong for the New York Jets, and I think for a lot of people within that building that are still there, and there was changeover behind the scenes as well after last season and how embarrassing it was. I think it was quite humbling to see how bad it went, and that's why I think Aaron Glenn is going to be given some room here to run this organization as he sees fit.
Tanner Engstrand, the offensive coordinator, the new offensive coordinator, comes over from the Detroit Lions, where last year they got the most out of their running backs. How much of that influence do you expect to come over? Because I do know in Detroit he wasn't exactly the offensive mind over there, but he certainly, you would think he would bring some influence.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I think the Jets want to run it. I'm not breaking any news. I mean, I think the Jets and, the Vera Tucker injury and him being done for the year and having a torn tricep is a huge loss for the Jets. Now moving Tippmann over from center to right guard to place along their rookie first-round draft choice at the right tackle position. But Jets want to go out there and run the football. So, yeah, they bring in Engstrand over from the Detroit Lions, and they don't want to have obvious passing situations. They want to make sure that they put Justin Fields in positions to win and be successful and build confidence. After all, confidence is king when you talk to athletes of any sport. And he's got a career 61% completion percentage. So the Jets want to try and play keep away a little bit, want to win time of possession, keep the defense fresh, use what is believed to be the strength of their team, even with the AVT loss, that is the offensive line, and try and feature guys like Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Hall being obviously a little bit more of the thunder, Hall being the guy that can be the home run hitter for this Jets team. So I think the influence is there. Anytime you bring guys over, coaches that is, from a winning program, changing the culture, familiarity between the two men. When you look at Glenn and now is obviously his offensive coordinator, the Jets, make no mistake about it, they got to run it, because if they don't run it, they're going to have a really tough time, even with Garrett Wilson moving the football, because Justin Fields just doesn't throw it well enough.
Now, as you touched on it there, Fields leaves a lot to be desired as a passer. However, we saw during his time in Chicago, when they let him run free, he could take over games with his legs, and then that kind of opens things up elsewhere. Or last year with the Steelers, they really didn't let him do that. They just wanted him operating more as a game manager. I was just curious, how do you see his role in the Jets offense? Do you think it'll be more conservative, or do you think they'll try to open some things up for his legs?
Well, I think they're going to use his legs, because I think if you don't, then you're really not making use of the talent of the players. So do I think you'll have some design runs? Yeah. I mean, one of the touchdowns he scored during the course of the preseason was off a passing situation in Green Bay against the Packers, where he ran from within 20 yards in to the right corner of the end zone for a touchdown for Justin Fields. So I think Glenn's looking to try and win and keep the games competitive and kind of build that kind of scene. So when you look at the offense, is it going to be a case of where they're going to be restrictive? No, I think the scenario is however we can move the football. If it's setting up 3rd and 2, or if we have designed runs and we can get Fields on the outside and we believe that's going to, he can go out there and have a 30 or 40-yard run to help out our offense. Yeah. The one thing you don't want to see him have happen is take unnecessary hits, right? Down the field or whatever it might be. But I think it's going to be more of the Chicago version, where he ran for one of the years 11 or 1,200 yards on the ground. I think it's going to be more of the Chicago version than it was for 6 games last year in Pittsburgh.
Mark, you start talking about Chicago, Ryan's going to get all excited. He's from Chicago, absolutely loves Justin Fields as a player. You're going to get him all worked up thinking about Chicago. That's just his man. That's just his thing.
Oh, you believe Ryan? Is that true? You
he
think
was
the Jets
fun
have
to
their
watch.
answer? Is that true?
He was fun to watch in Chicago. It's just if he could develop a little more as a passer, he can be the guy.
Well, hey, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, more from Marc Malusis of WPIX in New York. You're watching Extra Points right here on your home for the Black and Gold Nation. Back here on Extra Points, a special Black and Gold edition. We're going to be bringing you once a week. So if you're a fan of our regular show, we appreciate you sticking with us here as we talk Steelers wall to wall. And we'll be back tomorrow for our regular show. We'll probably talk high school football on that Friday evening. But let's keep our conversation going about the Jets and the Steelers. Marc Malusis from WPIX in New York is our guest. Riley, why don't you continue this conversation for us?
Yeah, Mark. So you talked a lot earlier about the Elijah Vera Tucker injury. He's going to be out for the year. But the one other big injury to monitor for the Jets this week is Sauce Gardner dealing with a fibula injury. What do you think his status is going to be for Sunday? And how big is it if the Jets don't have their top corner?
Yeah, I think it's a hit if he's not available. Just like everything else in today's day and age of NFL injuries, everything's murky. So I don't have any kind of breaking news for you guys, unfortunately, on this Thursday about whether or not he's going to be able to give it a go Sunday at home at MetLife Stadium. But he's a guy that got rewarded during the course of the offseason with a brand spanking new contract extension, and rightfully so. He's an upper echelon elite cornerback in the National Football League. You know, the Jets were going to have him travel more this year under Aaron Glenn as head coach as compared to just playing one side of the field as he did predominantly when Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich were the head coach and defensive coordinator respectively. So that would be a hit. You know, I don't think there's any question. Talent is talent. You know, you can go out there, you can talk about, well, it's more of a team game. You can talk about the defensive system. When you look at elite level corners that are lockdown corners like Sauce Gardner, he's not able to give it a go Sunday, you know, going up against Rodgers and DK Metcalf and company. And we know what Pittsburgh wants to try and do and run, but, you know, they're going to try and push the ball down the field. That would be a massive hit.
Now, do you think there's any sort of hostility towards Rodgers from some of the guys that were there last year? Like maybe they are going to come out, you know, more ready to play because they want to shut him down?
No, I got to be honest with you. I don't think so. I mean, talking to guys, you know, sitting down, talking to Tony Adams about a week ago about Rodgers, said he had nothing but respect. I think there are a lot of guys. I mean, I don't think every relationship, just like, you know, wherever you might be working, watching today, you don't get along with everybody. So I'm sure there's guys that Aaron Rodgers rubbed the wrong way a year ago, right? So, you know, but on the whole, I think there are a lot of people that on that team. I know a lot of people on the team that have a healthy respect for Rodgers because, you know, ball knows ball. So, I mean, like he has accomplished a lot. You could talk about Aaron Rodgers, the personality, the McAfee appearances, everything that comes along with it. There's no question he's one of the more gifted quarterbacks the sport has ever seen in our generation. And he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer whenever his career does come to an end. So I think there's more respect than anything else. I think there's obviously disappointment that it didn't work out. I think there's also massive disappointment, just year one, ruptures and Achilles, that game against the Buffalo Bills where it ended up being a completely lost season. Because if that was a building block of the year to last year, maybe things turn out completely and utterly differently.
Mark, I'm among the guys in the camp that I think Aaron Rodgers played a lot better maybe in the second half of the season. He started to look more like himself. I don't know if you agree with me at all. I mean, you were the guy watching all the Jets games, but just from watching a couple here and there, that's kind of the conclusion I came to.
Yeah, Riley, I think you're dead on correct. And talking to some NFL
Riley
people,
often is.
You know, I think you're 100% correct. Rodgers can spin it. Like this is not all due respect to Roethlisberger. This is not Ben at the end. This is not Breeze at the end. This is not Peyton Manning at the end. This is not Eli at the end. Where guys are holding on for dear life. Rodgers at the end of the last season could still spin it. He could still throw it. And talking to people around the National Football League, when the Jets decide to cut loose and you're looking for a veteran quarterback, watching the game film, he looked like an older quarterback that got healthier as the season went along, and that's true. And he dealt with a myriad of injuries, including a hamstring injury early on in that season, which clearly, obviously, limited his mobility and his ability to go out there and drive the football. So he's got to stay upright and healthy. But yeah, I think you saw a quarterback toward the tail end of the season that could still go out there, and he's not, Joe Burrow at the peak of his talent, but he's a guy that clearly can still get the job done, and that's why he's back in the NFL with you guys this year, the Steelers.
Now, one guy we haven't talked about yet is Breece Hall. I'm just curious, how do you think Breece and Justin Fields will be able to complement each other in that run game?
Yeah, Ryan, I think it's fascinating. I think Breece has got, you want to talk about a guy that's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. We talked about Breece Hall entirely different context a year ago than coming into this season. A year ago, Breece Hall was, this dynamic running back that was going to take the NFL by storm. If you play fantasy football, he was a top 10, top 8 draft pick in fantasy football. He was going to be great, explosive, this and that. Didn't work out. Offensive line was brutal, right? You go back, I mean, it's, you can't block it, you can't run it, right? And the Jets couldn't run it consistently last year because they couldn't block it. And Breece Hall, he's not the most physical, violent runner. He's not going to run guys over, but Breece Hall is a true home run threat. And that's why the Jets moved up into the second round to go get him, a handful of years ago. His future's up in the air, whether it be with this organization or someplace else. He's looking to make a big-time statement this season. So I think Hall comes in. If you're asking me, a couple of Jets that have got a chip on their shoulder for personal reasons, I think Breece Hall would probably be near the top of that list because I think he wants to show everybody just how talented of a running back he is.
I want to back the train up here a quick second. Mark, did you just take a stray? Did 5 Hall of Famers just take a stray from you? Talking about Breeze and Peyton and Eli being bad at the end of their careers?
Yeah, those guys, Peyton couldn't throw it at the end.
Peyton could not.
Drew couldn't throw it at the end. You guys watched Ben in Pittsburgh. Ben was not there.
I was watching Drew in New Orleans actually at the time, and you're right.
He couldn't. No. Everything was within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
and it's a shame, but I mean, it just was. It is. So, my point being, and I'm not trying to drag those guys down. And Peyton Manning at the end couldn't throw it. Right, the defense helped them win that second Super Bowl out there in Denver. So, you look at Rodgers last year. If you give him a clean pocket, he doesn't have the mobility that he once did in Green Bay. He's in his early 40s, but the idea that he can't still, throw it downfield and attack downfield, I think is silly. I think he can. I think he showed it toward the tail end of last season, or really the back half, last 6-7 games of the regular season.
Well, let's take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up with Marc Malusis of WPIX in New York. You're watching Extra Points right here on your home for the Black and Gold Nation. Back here on Extra Points, a special Black and Gold Nation edition of our daily show. Marc Malusis of WPIX in New York is our guest. We are talking about the Jets. Mark, Riley asked you a question about Aaron Rodgers' reception in the locker room. I'm curious how the fans are going to handle Aaron Rodgers. I heard them debating on WFAN the other day whether or not he'll be booed. What do you think will happen when Rodgers' number is called as he comes onto the field on Sunday?
Well, here's the interesting thing. I think it was Vivid Seats came out and basic fan projection. They said 50% of the fans in attendance on Sunday are going to be Steeler fans.
That sounds about right.
I mean, it's going to be crazy. When you think about it, so there's going to be a lot of black and gold out at MetLife Sunday afternoon in Jersey as, the Steeler fan is traveling, looking to watch the Rodgers debut. Listen, do I think he's going to be, I think it's more, I think if he's booed, it's more out of disappointment and sadness that it didn't work out. Look at his stat. Last year, he threw 28 touchdown passes. He had 11 picks. It's not like Aaron Rodgers went out there and had 12 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. His splits were pretty good. He threw 28 touchdown passes. That's really good. Now, did it meet expectations as a team? No. I think there are people that grew frustrated with Rodgers, the distraction. But I think most educated Jet fans look at it and say, well, it wasn't entirely his problem or his fault. I think there's more vitriol or anger toward the owner, Woody Johnson, than there is Aaron Rodgers. Would he get booed? I think there'll probably be a smattering of boos. I don't think he's going to get applauded. I don't think he's going to get cheered, and there's going to be a great welcome back, Aaron. Thanks for 2 years, especially with the way that it ended last year. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be all this boo and anger. I think the Jet fan is excited to see what Glenn is going to be.
Now, and you brought up the numbers. Like, if they had a quarterback that did that in the Mark Sanchez era, they might win a Super Bowl one of the 2 years they went to the AFC Championship game.
Oh, there's no question. Like, if you go back and watch Sanchez's game splits, like, in the number I believe in, is 24. I think when Mark Sanchez threw 24 or less times, the Jets' winning percentage was like 80%. When he threw more than 24 times, it was like 30%. Like, it was just terrible. So it was like the less of Mark Sanchez, the better when you're looking at the Jets. But yeah, like, that's the point, Ryan. When you look at it, like, on the whole, like, when you watch the season, you're like, my God, this is such misery. Like, it's so terrible to watch. But then you look back on the stats, you're like, you know what? It really wasn't all that bad. 28 touchdowns, is a legit number for a quarterback when given probably half the year he was banged up and hurt.
Mark, oftentimes I feel like it's kind of nice to have an outside perspective because fans might overhype some things. The media on the inside might see things a little bit differently. What were kind of your thoughts on what the Steelers did this past offseason with the moves they've made, and what do you think the ceiling is for them?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I think they needed an answer at the quarterback position. And I think it was a match made in heaven. I think it's Rodgers got a chip on his shoulder, want to prove everyone wrong. If this indeed is his final season, he doesn't want to go out like it ended last year. You've got a coach in Tomlin that I think is one of the best head coaches in the National Football League, squeeze every single ounce out of his team. And I like the fact that the Steelers are going for it this year. Now, do I put them on the level of Buffalo? Do I put them on the level of Baltimore? Do I put them? I mean, I think there's good and bad with Kansas City. Chargers suffered an offensive line injury that I think is massive when you look at, Slater being done for the season. Broncos, the defense is going to be legit. Let's see what Bo Nix is year number 2. So I could see the Pittsburgh Steelers being a playoff team this year. I mean, I do. I mean, as much criticism as we could look at Pittsburgh well, let me look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, I love Burrow, love Chase, love Higgins. They're unbelievable. Defense couldn't stop any of us from getting into the end zone. I mean, the defense stinks. So, like, they better go out there and score 35 plus points a game. So you look at Pittsburgh, I think it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm intrigued to watch how it all plays out starting on Sunday.
He is Marc Malusis of WPIX in New York. Mark, before we let you go, you got a game prediction for us?
Yeah, I'd take Pittsburgh's a 2.5-point favorite. The line, I think the total in the game is set like 37.5, so not many points are expected. I would take Pittsburgh in the game. I'll go 21-13. A couple touchdown passes for Rodgers, 21-13 final Pittsburgh.
It should be a fun game out there Sunday in New Jersey, the Meadowlands. Maybe a little rainy. I didn't love the forecast, so maybe that running attack of the Jets might benefit.
Yeah, if it's raining, well, but Pittsburgh knows that. Like, all 4 of us know the Jets want to go out there and run the football. And even though Ryan loves them, I don't love Justin Fields, right? So I understand that. So if they put him in obvious passing situations, I think that Steelers secondary is going to be smiling ear to ear saying, you know what, maybe we can get a pick or 2 over the course of the game. But yeah, I think if it's bad weather, wind to me is the bigger thing. It's not expected to be windy. I think the temperatures, in the 70s. So it's going to be a nice September Sunday out at MetLife Stadium. But that would favor the Jets. But everyone else knows that the Jets want to go out there and try and run it.
He is Marc Malusis from WPIX in New York. Mark, we appreciate you joining us. We'll have more on the Steelers and Jets coming up this weekend on Black and Gold Today. Check your local listings. Thanks for watching.